Hi everyone, welcome back to this channel of crafting, crochet and knitting. My name is Nikki and welcome to my little yarniverse. So hello, welcome if you're new, welcome back if you're a returning viewer, and that very much is a big welcome back if you're a returning viewer, because I realise that I've not been putting out an awful lot of content on this channel of late. In fact, I think this is only my third video of 2024, but that is life. Life has got in the way. I'm not apologising for that. I can't change those circumstances, and I do have medical conditions that mean sitting in front of the camera when I'm really not feeling it is very tiring, and I do have to look after my health. But I have been knitting off camera even though I haven't been knitting on camera. So I do have 6 months worth of projects to show you. We really probably ought to get started. So the first thing that I have to show you guys is something a little bit different. I can't even remember if I showed you me starting this project or not, because I can't remember when I started it. But it has been something that's been on my list for a while now. I want to make a blanket for the house for every season, so that when spring starts I can get the spring blanket out, when summer starts I can get the summer blanket out, and so on and so on. I do have quite a couple of Christmassy blankets that I've shown you before, so winter is not the biggest on my priority right now because they will cope over winter if I need to. And autumn has been started but is currently sat in a bag on the top of my kallax because I need a blocking board and my husband is still making my blocking board. So autumn is in progress. We haven't spoken about that one in a while. So that meant spring or summer, and I actually had a lot of turquoise coloured yarn left over from when I was attempting to make the Persian tiles blanket and trying to colour match a blue that, let's face it, I was not going to succeed in colour matching. So I had 6 or 7 different shades of turquoise that were not the blue I wanted for that blanket, but were perfect for a summery blanket. So this is what I came up with. So I'm going to hold it up and then I'm going to put it back down because I want people to be able to read my lips. I'm conscious of being more accessible on this channel. So this is the blanket. And now we can talk about it. So you can see the various turquoisey blues. So obviously the darkest colour is not turquoisey. That was just one that I already had in a multi-pack that I've used for a couple of things, but I think I got it because I wanted a dark blue for one blanket that I gave away, and then I had 3 more left. So it's done well, but you can see that we start here and then we go through transitioning into this mid-tone turquoise. I actually have a second ball of that still in my stash, or a ball that colour matched to this quite well, but I just needed the one ball to get through. And then this lighter turquoise, which again colour matches to a second ball I've got in my stash still, so I could make an entire second blanket if I really wanted to. I don't, but I could. Then we've got, very subtly, so I'm going to have to show you both at the same time, this very, very light grey and then this white. So I started off by trying to use the grey that was already, the lightest grey that was already in my stash, which was actually this colour. So if I hold this up, excuse me, if I hold this up you can see that that's a lot dark, sorry, if I hold this up you can see that that's a lot darker. And when I got to about this point here with the beige in place, even though they're different colours, they were really, really similar in terms of sort of depth of colour. So like if I grayscaled this, they were really close, and that is not what I wanted. And it just looked wrong. So the idea with the grey is to be this sort of muddy, murky, slightly deeper seafoam topping that's beginning to materialise on the waves before it crashes onto the beach. And this really was just too dark for that. So I was like, oh, I don't have any grey, I'm trying to use up yarn, I'm trying not to buy more yarn, but I kind of figured, okay, well if I go to a shop and I just get like the one ball of Starcraft in this light grey colour. I'm going to use it because there's so many other amigurumi projects that require the grey, and this was the lightest grey I got at the time, and this was when I was buying acrylic yarns at about like £1.25 a ball, and not at the cost of Starcraft. But I just thought, you know what, I want this blanket to look good, so we're going to buy that ball, and then we have it in our stash for any future projects too. We're not going to buy loads of it, so we're just going to get that one. And I just feel like actually it was so worth it, because it has made the blanket look the way I wanted it to look. And yeah, it blends better into this white. So it's kind of a pearly light grey that blends into this white more naturally and definitely works better. So that was that one, and then we were able to come all the way back to this sandy colour, which again got the majority of the ball of yarn out of my stash. So we have managed to use up 3 balls of yarn, oddments of white, and we only bought 1 more ball of yarn that will get used. I think that's a win. We got this gorgeous 3D ripple. So can you see that I've gone in the back loops only every time. So by going in the back loops, you make this much more texture. I feel like if I hold it further back, you can see the texture better. And so it becomes, you know, more like a wave, not just in terms of it being rippling this way, but it's also actually rippling up and down on the blanket. And then when I got to the beach, I stopped doing that and I just did normal crochet stitch. And then we have got these little features. We've got a little starfish, which I made, like I found a star pattern, and then, did I? I don't think I did. I think I made this up. This was a little while ago, but actually I think I struggled through. And then I just sewed it on with some extra little orange details there. So that's my little starfish. And I definitely made the turtles up because I started with a circle in this nice green colour. So this is the same green that I made Baby Yoda in. So I mean, Baby Yoda's not Yoda, but everyone knows him as Baby Yoda. And I had some left over, so I made a couple of discs, and then I got this darker green, which was from, I can't remember now if this was actually I think I got this for my autumn blanket. I can't remember if it was that green or not, because I was looking for other greens for the autumn blanket, so I've just sort of, you know, borrowed a little bit of that, and I've just done the final circle in that green. And then at various points I was chaining out, crocheting back in, and then joining, and then doing the same again. Slightly different shaping in terms of which stitches I used to do the turtle's head. And then I've just got a teeny tiny little sort of, I think, extra stitch in there just to make a hint of a tail without it being too obvious, just a little touch of a tail. And then I've crocheted them or sewn them on to the blanket in different places as they go out to sea. So that is my summer blanket, which I stole off the sofa because it is on at the moment, with us being in July. So I'll put that back later. And then so many other things. So where to start? Let's start with the amigurumis. We've been working our way through the Snuggle and Play crochet book for amigurumis, and one on my list that has not been done yet was a monkey. I think I've shown this in a short, but here is the finished monkey. So this is going into my crochet collection. But I've also been making a lot of the same amigurumis, but not a monkey, different ones, for babies and upcoming babies, because there's another round of pregnancies, folks. So we've been busy. We have got a giraffe, which I've given a couple of little bows because the child in question has an older sibling who also has a giraffe, so I wanted a distinguishing factor character. So another giraffe. The colour is also slightly different as well. The giraffes I've made in the past have been a lot more pastel, but I have since bought these more dusky colours, again for the autumn blanket. So I've got some spare yarn. I've been making giraffes in this colour combination, just because I feel like it's got a bit more contrast. So that is one giraffe. And then we've also made an elephant. Now the elephant is not in the Snuggle and Play book. I basically did the head, the body, the legs in the same way as any of the others. So I mean, not the giraffe because of the neck, but maybe the rhino or the zebra, you know, they've got the same body and head structure and legs and arms structure. And then I can't remember what I did for the ears. I think I might have stolen the dog ears or something, or like just tried to slightly edit the size by doing an extra row. And then the nose, or the trunk, sorry, that was all on the fly. I guessed about the right size that I wanted based on the legs of some of the creatures in the past that I've done, and then just did kind of short rows. It doesn't work as nicely as in knitting because crochet stitches are bigger, but I did do sort of turn around, make an extra one to bend around, and then join back in, did a circle, and then did it again where I went backwards and forwards at the top and then did another circle to join, and that slowly bent it around at a 90-degree angle so that it would sit as a trunk on the nose. So it looks a little bit wrinkly, but I think maybe that's just, you know, a trunk texture. I think if I did this again though, I would need to put some sort of t-shirt on the elephant because it was a lot of grey otherwise. And I'm talking about the elephant, but hopefully editor Nikki will have put a picture of the elephant up whilst I was discussing that, because that one has already been gifted. Two more that have not been gifted but are both the same are two more ducks. So I made the duck for myself fairly recently. I don't think there was any reason. I think I just asked what I should make and someone said a duck, so I made a duck. It was quite easy because there's less to stitch on, so they worked up quite quickly, so I was happy with the one I made myself. And then two more people were like, oh, we like that, so we've got two ducks for two upcoming babies. Yeah. So I'm going to wrap those ready to gift. That's the arigurumis. I'm actually working on another arigurumi. Should I just do the arigurumis in one go? Let's, this one's not finished, but we're in the process of making a zebra. Now I really don't like making the zebras because I hate working with the black yarn, especially when there's no light. I decided to actually get on and make it now rather than waiting until the end of the year, because at least there is better lighting, but I haven't finished it yet. So I've got all the parts, and I've just got the head, which the difficulty with the zebra is that I normally sew the eyes on. As you can see with the duck, I usually sew the eyes on so that we don't have the safety eye issue for children, specifically for babies, and you can't do that with something that already has a base of black. So my zebra and my panda have both got safety eyes on them because I'm not going to choke on the eyes, I'm not going to try and eat my toy, but a child might. And so I attempted to make these eyes. They're just a magic ring with 6 crochets in with black, and then actually slip stitching with the green. The green is to match the jumper that I've added, which on the plus side means I got to do less stripes because I really don't like working with it. You can see I haven't remembered what my little cheaty hack was for making stripes without having to cut the yarn. I did work it out previously. I think my frog, it's my frog, I can't remember, it might even be my own zebra, has much straighter lines than this, but I tried something and it didn't quite work and I wasn't going to crop it back. It's hidden, this is the back of the head, so it's going to be down here anyway, and anything that might be visible is going to be covered with hair to make a mane, so I'm not worried about it. The back of the body is also going to be fairly hidden, it's not going to be that noticeable. So I've done all the pieces, I just need to sew them together. So we've got a zebra wearing green shirt because of a football, not football team, of a sports team that is supported, and then also the arms to go with it. So they've just got the last row is in the same colour, so when they stitch on, it's connected. I've made the legs literally this morning. We've also got the ears, so I'm going to have to stitch all of that together at some point. So I've got all the pieces, I just need to do some sewing. And that is everything for our grimmies. So we're going to move on now to socks. Got a couple of pairs of socks to show you. So I do believe that I made these socks very early in the year, but I don't think I've shown them on camera. So very simple sock. My husband was due a pair, he hasn't had a new pair in a little while, so these are very similar in length to some ordinary store-bought socks that he quite enjoys wearing. I've done my usual ergonomic toe, so that's where I look at the sort of the shapes of the toe that I'm working with, and most of the socks that I have had to make for people, they've had little toes that slant you know, steeper up towards than the big toe, so they're lopsided. The other sock has the opposite way round, and then the yarn was just some really cheap wool yarn from Lidl that I got my hands on, and it has this stripe in it. It had a matching ball of solid colour, so I did the heel in solid colour so I didn't get any stripes that were the wrong size, and then went back to the stripey to continue the rest of the sock, and then just to make sure again that I didn't get any the wrong size, the cuff and the toe were both also done with the solid colour matching. So made these, and I've got loads of yarn left because each ball was 100 grams, so there was 2 balls in a set, and it was like £5 I think for those two, so each ball of yarn was £2.50 for 100 grams of wool. So that's pretty good. And I've done my usual 1x1 rib for the cuff, which comes out quite nice. I'm much more of a fan of 1x1 rib than 2x2, and then the rest is just ordinary stockinette. So just a simple pair. My husband always complains with socks that the ones I've made him are very stylish and very nice and very pretty, and he doesn't want to wear them as everyday socks because he's worried that he'll break them. And I had the same feeling when I first started making socks, but now I've got about 10 pairs of socks, and I just think if I don't wear them, unless it's going to be a special occasion, then I don't get the joy of wearing them. And I'm actually really enjoying the feel of homemade socks. There is just something soothing about the feeling of them when I wear them, and I feel grounded, and the fact I made them as well is always really nice. So I have been wearing mine loads and my husband hasn't, so now he's got this pair, he can wear them day to day. They were really cheap wool that it was made out of. I've got loads left, so if he ruins them, he ruins them, it doesn't matter, I can make him another pair. But yes, that's one pair. And then I made myself a pair out of some other little yarn that I got. Now this was not actually a wool mix. This was, I'll just grab the ticket because I can't remember, it was 70% polyacrylic, so that's nylon, 23% viscose, which is made from the same company that produces one of the fibres in the West Yorkshire Spinners Elements yarn, which was exciting to see, and it seems to be part of the eco brand, so probably some sort of plant-based thing, not sure. And then 7% whatever on earth polybutylene tetrafolates. So don't get me wrong, these are a bit of a chemical nightmare, but they are so soft. They are so unbelievably soft. They are stretchy, they're kind of elasticated, so they've got absolutely loads of stretch to them. The way they're spun is a bit weird because the strands themselves seem to be like ringlets, and then 2 of those are allowed to wind around each other, and in a lot of places they just kind of reinforce the ringlet and they kind of spring into place. They kind of seem to slot into each other, but in some places that comes apart, and so you end up with like literally 2 strands split that could be separate, and it's hard to see where your stitches are. So that's not a great thing about this, but I'm guessing that that kind of ringlet, that spring, the way that they interlock like that, is what gives it its stretch, and it really is stretchy. And I again got 2 balls in a pack, both 100 grams each, and because it's so light, I strongly suspect that I have got way more yardage than a normal wool construction, because as I was making these socks I was thinking that I was going to only get this 1 pair out of it, and I've got absolutely loads left. In fact, do I just grabbing the work bag here, just pulling it off the side, do I? Yeah, okay, so I've got 2 balls like this for 1 colour left over, and 2 smaller ones like that. I could make an entire second pair of socks out of these. So I was fully expecting to run out of the blue, at least, because of using it for the cuffs and heels and toes, but I've got absolutely loads left. So I've shown them already as I was showing them stretchy. They are using the solid beige and the mottled blue to make a colour, or to attempt to make a colour work pattern, and the mottled blue in 1x1 rib for the cuff, the mottled blue for the heel and also for the toes. Usual ergonomic toe, more slanted on one side than the other. Now I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this colour work, because part of the mottled colour was beige, and so you lose some of the pattern. I mean, you can kind of see there's something going on, a sort of diamond shape. It's actually easier on the back where I started to squish it down. Now, this was originally meant to be a cube, where one colour was one side, the other colour was the other side, and then it would blend together to make the sort of the top. So it was meant to be, when you shine a light on a 3D, well, on a cube, which is 3D, you get a side that's light, a side that's dark, and a side that's in between. But I read the pattern wrong. So we ended up with this kind of diamond pill shaped thing instead, and I didn't want to rip it back. I think before I realised I was already down to where I wanted to break for the heel. So in the grand scheme of things, that was only 3 pattern repeats, or what I thought was 3 pattern repeats, and I've done 5 down here. It probably would have worked to rip it back, but because of the way I was doing colour work, which is probably wrong, it would have been a real faff to rewind it. So when I make colour work things, what I have been doing, and what I need to break the habit of doing, is I actually move the yarn. So when the yarn starts to twist, I untwist it and keep going. And what that means that I'm doing is that I'm pushing the active colour, so the colour that I am knitting at that moment, to the front every time. In colour work, if you're doing the technique properly, then you will push one colour to the front and you will let one colour sit behind. So what that means is I have a less obvious bold colour, and a less obvious main colour and a less obvious contrast colour, because I'm pushing all the stitches forward in turn. It's more effort because I'm constantly unwinding my yarn, which is probably why the technique doesn't do that. And I need to change this right when I do the next pair of socks. But this is what this pair was. This was a practice run, and they still come out as quite nice socks. They're incredibly soft, and I wore them for like 3 days in a row when I first made them, because they really are very squidgy. But they're not really my colours. They were very much, I very much picked them because they were a practice run, and if it went wrong, it went wrong. So the pattern went wrong. I now know my mistake, which means that I didn't make that mistake on the yarns that I intend to use for that main pattern. These were only $2.50 each, whereas my main yarn that I've got is more expensive. It's better to have made the mistake now. So, and I still have a pair of socks out of this that I can throw on, and I don't care if I wreck them because they're a cheap yarn, but they're really comfortable. If I was really bothered, I figured I could just gift them. They're a little bit big because I wanted to finish the pattern repeat, and like before I started the toes, so they are a touch on the big side. doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Like I say, I can always end up, if they stretch too much and they end up too big to wear, I can always just donate them to someone with slightly bigger feet, after washing them, of course. So yeah, we're not going to worry about that. More things that we've made. Let's take a knitting and crochet break and show you some things that I have been sewing. So I got the bug over the bank holiday weekend, end of May, to get my sewing machine out, and I thought I wasn't going to be able to because someone turned around and reminded me that I'd committed to something, and I panicked and realised I would have to do that. So I spent the entire first day of the weekend probably damaging my eyesight, staring at a computer, doing the thing that I promised to do, trying to get it done, working until I think 10, 11 o'clock at night trying to get it done, because I think I got to the point where at 7 o'clock at night I'd nearly got there, and so I kind of just had this like hyper fixation, I've got to finish this now, and then didn't actually finish until 11 o'clock, but finished, and so was very, very grateful that on the Sunday and the Monday I was able to get my sewing machine out, and I made the most of this. One thing that I'm not going to show you because it's just daft was I was going to try and make a graduation bonnet, because I graduated from my PhD 6 years ago. 6 years ago? No. 4 years ago. 4 years ago, not 6. Phew. About 4 years ago I graduated from my PhD, and the bonnets and the really fancy capes and everything are very, very expensive, and I just thought, oh, I'll make my own as like a little gimmick. It's just like a reminder of the day, and then I never got around to doing it until this weekend, and I did make it, but it came out really badly, so I'm not going to show you that one. What did come out better was some more zipper pouches that I wanted to make. So I've got, in fact, I can show you. This was the thing that inspired it. I got this as a gift one year, and it's just the perfect size for sticking my extra cables in for my interchangeable needle set. So it was getting overrun because there are now 4 new cables in there, but it's not big enough for my DPNs or for my non-interchangeable circulars, and I wanted something to put those in because I didn't have anything for them, and I was using them a lot. They keep getting stored. This tends to be my sock bag, so they keep getting stored in the back of this, just sort of tipped in the back, but I was feeling like that was going to run the risk of breaking them, and I wanted to make an actual dedicated zipper pouch for it. So we used this quite autumnal fabric to make a zipper pouch. It's much bigger. In fact, if I just get that one back out again, you can see it's about nearly twice the size. Actually, it's a lot longer. The zips for this I'd originally bought because I was going to use them to make a knitting bag, and I have yet to design and probably ought to test the making of that knitting bag before I commit the fabric that I love. It's spacey fabric and I don't want to ruin it. So I just decided in the end that I've got all these zips that I can just buy them again if I need to, and I need a pouch, so I used that. We've got just a yellow lining, which is probably slightly more summery than we intend, and so we've got all of the various the non-interchangeable circular needles being stored in there. So I've got my hires, which I love. I've got my knit pros, which I used recently on holiday just because if I lost them or at the airport took them, it didn't matter. I've also got my much bigger knit pros in case I want to do like 2 at a time, or is it magic loop? Magic loop's also a crochet thing, but I feel like some people use it as like a magic circle for doing knitting on bigger needles but of a smaller project. I don't do it personally. I've got these smaller ones as well. I need to try the Addies. So I'm really excited about that. So they're all in the pouch, and then they're not alone because my DPNs are also in here, and my DPNs are currently being stored in a couple of sets. So I bought this one, and this inspired some further sewing. I bought this one from Pickle Lily at Bakewell last year, and it's just got these little snaps, and I store my DPNs in there. And when I'm working on my DPNs, the sock will come out here and the snaps will close around it and the sock will hang there and you won't lose your stitches. So I've got a set in there. I also bought this one from Piccalilli as well at the same show, and I've got a longer set in here because I like to switch up longer or shorter DPNs based on like what part of a heel I'm working on and whether I need more stitches or less on. So that's a slightly longer set. And like I say, this inspired me, so I made my own during the sewing weekend. I used material that matches the pouch. I got a really cheap craft like puncher to put the snaps in. It's also supposed to be capable of making eyelet holes. It was horrible. I think I probably spent £15 on it, and that was cheap comparably, but it was absolutely awful. It was snagging fabric. I feel like when I play with these, I have to be really careful to undo them, because I did put one in the wrong way round and I did basically rip it off. I was using like a table knife to try and tweak the teeth so that I could rip it off without taking the fabric with it, and I could reapply, but I wouldn't recommend it. Like, I think what I really needed was those plastic ones that are on the Piccalilli ones, but we live and we learn. I made this one slightly bigger than I needed for the smaller size. So I've got two sizes, one that is 15 centimeters and one that is, I think it's 20 centimeters. So ideally I would like DPNs that were 18 centimeters, but I haven't found these yet. So I've got another set of Knit Pro Symphonies, I think these were, and these are slightly bigger, so these are the ones I use for colour work, because these are 2.5 instead of 2.25. And these are only 15 centimeters, and I've made the pouch a little bit bigger. It's not big enough to fit the 20s, but it would be big enough to sort of fit maybe 16 centimeters in it. I wanted to give plenty of room for sewing the edges. I could probably pull the needles out, but when the sock yarn is on those needles and it's being used in the pouch, it sort of, because it's being pulled that way, it pulls these in a bit, and so it doesn't come out, it doesn't come loose. So it's functioning, not best, but it works, and it was a good practice run because I did do some more. So that's my everyday pouch with all my gear in it. And then I wanted something that I could use at Christmas. I made a cushion before out of this fabric and then some other Christmassy fabrics that may be living in here, I'm not sure. The lining was another one of those Christmassy fabrics. So I've made the pouch with a nice Christmassy lining and a Christmassy outside. And it's currently housing a second DPN case. This one is ever so slightly smaller, I think. I think I just got this one quite right. So if I hold them up, there we go. So I just took that edge off, that excess off. I also took some excess off the top here as well. It just didn't feel like I needed it, and I think this is the size I need, so I'm happy with the size of that one. Obviously not happy with the snappers still. I need to get a new kit for that. I mean, that's a good birthday present idea for any family who are watching, just in case. I don't need any more yarn, but what I do need is something to put snappers in. But again, I feel like I have to really force these open. And then I've done Christmassy lining, so that's Christmas lights on the inside. So yeah, that is ready for me to use. I have a tendency to put socks on the needles at Christmas. I don't know what it is. It's easy to transport around maybe, and I can knit a sock, not the heel so much, but I can knit the tube part, so the leg or the foot, in company without needing to look an awful lot. If it's a variegated yarn and I'm just letting the yarn do the work rather than trying to do a pattern, and I think that makes it an ideal Christmas project. It's just something I can sit by the fire at my in-laws and just knit away while we're having a conversation, and as long as I'm careful not to overdo it and hurt my thumb, then it works out really well. So I'm happy that I now have a pouch and a DPN case that I can use when I take my Christmas project socks. I also tried to knit one up with this other material that I have, which is, I've got a light green and a dark green. They are different greens, just ever so slightly. In fact, I got both colours there. Yeah, so a lighter green and a dark green. They are the same sort of fabric, and I've now gone and dropped a bit. So they work quite nicely as an outside and inside. You can pick whether you want the lighter on the outside, whether you want the darker on the outside. And I wanted the darker on the outside, so that's what I did. And I went to put the snaps in, and this was basically when the machine gave up. So you can see what it does to the fabric. So this was, so this one was because I was trying to make an eyelet version, and I was going to pass like a ribbon through it instead to make that instead of a snapper, because the snappers were really stiff, and I thought, okay, well, if I make eyelets and I just thread some string through it, I can tie it up, and it would look quite nice, look sort of maybe a little bit more, you know, just period piece, but no, it was not meant to be. So the eyelets refused to work, and I've already punched the fabric, so I can't put snappers in place, so this is waiting for a new gadget so that I can finish this one off. And this also looks Christmassy as well, so it's living in the Christmas pouch for the time being, just until I get the right tool. And then this was also just because I had, again, same fabric, different colour, so I had a nice burgundy and then a more pinky colour. So I've got an inner in and out, and it's just a pouch, just something that I could slide things into if I need to. I think the original plan was to do something drawstring, and then I couldn't be bothered. I couldn't be bothered to make the drawstring, so I just made the pouch. You can see I've basically used actually a black thread for all of these. I wasn't going to colour match and just constantly be taking thread in and out of my machine, so I've just gone with that, and it's barely noticeable. It's got a top stitch around this just to keep in place, and then everywhere else you can't even see it because it's inside the lining. So yeah, that's also quite Christmassy too though, so if I did want to use it at Christmas time I could quite easily. Yeah, so happy with how all those came out, just apart from needing new snaps for that one DPN case. So that's all the sewing. Oh, well, it's not all the sewing. I made a table runner as well, but that's currently downstairs on the table, so I haven't picked that up. And then we're going a little bit further back. So this is something that I made a while ago, and I did, so I put one of these items into a short, but I've got it to show you again today. And then there's another one which I made just slightly after I made that short video, and then I never got around to making another video with an update. So I'll start with that one. I told you we had a lot to get through. So I should have undone these bags before I started the recording. So I keep all of my things in organza bags. It keeps the moths off them. Just a little tip in case you were wondering. But I made another cotton like summery tee. So I haven't stitched this together actually. I need to do some stitching. But it's got 4 colours in it. So we've got brown, yellow, light green and dark green. I bought this yarn at the same time as I bought the purple yarn that I made my original cotton tee, and it is just a square, and when you get up to the arms you add a couple of stitches, you continue up, and then you seam in a couple of places. So you seam to make a shoulder, then you actually leave part of the shoulder open, and you seam at the end just to close back up again, so that it actually does sit on your shoulder. It's really loose, really flowy, a great summer piece. We've not quite had the weather, well, we did have a heat wave, and actually this would have been ideal for during that heat wave, but it's now sort of moderate temperatures, but it's good for that sort of thing. I originally wanted to do something a little bit more exciting with the colour work, but as time went on, I just realised I wanted the yarn out of my stash, and I was having trouble working out the colours that would and wouldn't go next to each other. So I think that the yellow would not have gone well next to the dark green, whilst everything else did. And so I was trying to work out, okay, well, I could stripe it in this way or this way or this way. And I just thought, I don't really want that many stripes. I want blocks of colour. Obviously, colours look different when you put them like gradiented like this anyway, because colours always appear darker or brighter based on what they're next to. So I just went for a simple construction in the end. I've got the brown next to my face and my hair because that one went best with my skin tone, whereas the yellow doesn't go as well with my skin tone. And then the green or the emerald, the dark emerald would also go quite nice against my skin tone, so I finished with those and put the yellow in the middle. So that's what I've done there. There's a few loose threads that I need to continue stitching up, but it's done. So that's that one. In case you're interested, if you haven't seen it before, this is the purple one, so light purple, dark purple, same construction, seamed at the top, just a square. So that's what it was based off of. Different stripes though, wanted to make it look like slightly different. I didn't want to copy it entirely, and this is obviously also 2 colours, whereas my new one is 4 colours. So it's just nice to have some summer clothes that are easy to throw on and not like tight or not inappropriate for work, I guess, as well. So like sometimes I feel like I don't want to wear vest tops to work because that feels a bit too much, but something like that where it's actually covering me up but it's just a lot looser and floaty, it's quite nice. And then final piece to show you today is the jumper. So this is the first knitted yoke down jumper that I've made. I've got other knitted jumpers. Well, I've got a knitted jumper and a knitted cardigan. The knitted cardigan I didn't like because it doesn't actually kind of come round my body properly. The knitted jumper, the other knitted jumper that I did is a raglan, and actually that one I really like. It's a cable one. It took a lot of effort though, so I'm not going to be making one again anytime soon. I don't have a yarn that I think would really show the cables nicely. I do like that one. I do wear it quite a lot, but because it was a raglan, it wasn't going to make the colour work, you know, that I want to do at some point. So I want to do a Fair Isle type jumper at some point, you know, with Christmas motifs on it. And for that I first need to work out what my sizings are in a yoke down situation. Now, you might have noticed that this has a very raglan-like line, and that is because just to work out first how many stitches I needed, I did do my increases in the same place all the way around, just to try and work out where that was, you know, how much that was going to be. It was the easiest way for me to do the maths, work out how much I needed to increase by and how many rows. If I am going to do this again, which is my plan, then that will have to change. I will have to make sure that I'm increasing those stitches at regular intervals around the yoke, that I'm accommodating for where colour work could go. I think what I've realised is that I don't want colour work that goes around at this point. I would have to do that when I do the very traditional Fair Isle one, but my next practice one, I think I actually want something that grows downwards, because I'm trying to draw a little bit of attention away from my shoulders, but also not have it at my waist. Like, I'm trying not to show like how round I am, and so having a motif that literally goes around my body doesn't feel like it's going to go very well. So I'm going to try and do something that sort of grows downwards instead and sort of sprays outwards. I haven't finished designing that yet. I haven't worked out where that's going to fit into these measurements, but these measurements are pretty good, so I do want to be keeping to these measurements. I need to change up the neckline though, because I did short rows on the neckline that were not the best for actually shaping it around my neck. I encroached too far into the front, and then I only left 3 stitches between each wrap and turn, which meant that all of the growth was happening at the front, and so I had this teeny tiny bit at the front that was small, and then it got bigger here and then continued around my back. So actually that's not how the wrap and turns are supposed to be done. That's not how the short rows are supposed to be done. I need to work out how to do that differently in future. So that's something, another reason for doing another practice is to work out what that's going to be. The arms maybe could have been a tiny bit longer, but I don't want very long sleeves. I prefer my sleeves to stop more sort of here, so that I've got my wrists free. And that's because when I'm knitting, I always end up poking my needles into my cuffs of my outfit if that's knitted, and I don't want to ruin my knitted jumpers. I did, however, like the 1x1 neckline, so I will do that again. I want to do it in such a way that I don't feel like I need to bend it round and sew it, but I think fixing the short rows is the way to fix that. And yeah, I wore this jumper a lot at the start of the year. It fits quite nicely. I need to add waist shaping for sure, because it actually was quite baggy around my waist and it didn't look like I had a waist, and actually turns out I do have a waist, so I need to shape around that. But as a starting jumper, I'm just so glad I finally finished one. So yes, another practice is needed, but really happy so far with what I've got and the progress that I've made. That is everything I have that I've made in 2024. I do actually have some pictures of a few other things that I've made. So I've already spoken about the elephant that I've made and gifted, but I did also make a meeple character, a dice which was very biased and always liked to land on the number 4, and also just like a book. And so those were done in a variety of crochet and Tunisian crochet. The Tunisian crochet to me felt like a really nice way to get a square that would allow me to make a dice that was closer to a cube than anything I've made so far. So with crochet, you know, the second you start stuffing it, things are going to start bulging out and try to become circular. Whereas with the Tunisian crocheting and stitching it in such a way that it was sort of like through back loops only, which kind of forced a bit more of an edge, the hope was to kind of keep a little bit more of the square structure in there. So yes, that, I believe, is now everything that I've made so far in 2024. So, if you made it to the end of this video with me, thank you, well done, you are the MVPs. It was a long one today, and that's just because I really did feel like I needed to catch you up on everything that's been happening so far and just show you that I have been creating lots during the year, I just haven't been recording it. I'm trying to get better so that over the next few months I am actually recording these things as we make them and not like 6 months later, because I forgot some of the things about like how I did something, how I made it, what edits I made, and I like to be able to talk about those when I show you what I've been making. So the next video that I make will hopefully contain a little bit more of that, and a little bit less of a sort of, you know, advertisement reel of everything that I've made. I am looking forward to the summer wool show that is happening in sort of the South Midlands at the end of the month, so I'm hoping to video that and to bring you a video of sort of a tour around the place and what I bought. I need to be careful with what I buy because I'm running out of space in my Kallax. So that's the lovely wall of yarn that you can't see because it's currently in boxes behind me. That's because if it's not in boxes, it falls off the shelf. So we have got to fix the Kallax situation, but I can't pass up on the opportunity to buy some lovely hand-dyed yarn from the summer wool show. So I will be purchasing. I'm just hopefully not going to be purchasing too much. Oh, actually, that's one thing that I think I did show you in the last video, but it's living in my pouch at the moment. I got my DPN. Oh no, where are they? Got to find them now. They're buried. I got my DPN stoppers. So at the last wool show that I went to, so they are living in my DPN bag because that's when they get used. I love those. I might be buying some more of those at the next show because they're just something that I can use anytime that I make socks. Whereas, yeah, if I get yarn, I've got to find somewhere to put it. So they live in the DPM bag as well. If I get any other sewing done, I'll show you that as well, but I'm not sure about that. I quite like the idea of having a long weekend to sew and get things done. So I think it's more likely that I will be knitting and crocheting. I've still got a couple of pregnant friends to crochet and knit for their children. So whether they're cardigans or hats or toys, I've got plenty of that coming up to show you in future videos as well. So I'm going to wrap things up there for today. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Leave a comment to tell me what you are making. I do love to see what you guys are making. Yeah, do you like making toys? Do you like making jumpers? Do you like making baby garments? Let me know. I will see you in another video. Bye for now, everyone.